I'm terrified I might be here forever. WNBA star Brittney Griner wrote these words in a handwritten letter to President Joe Biden about her Russian detainment. In the letter, Griner writes, "As I sit here in a Russian prison alone with my thoughts and without the protection of my wife, family, friends, Olympic jersey, or any accomplishments, I'm terrified I might be here forever." On the 4th of July, our family normally honors the service of those who fought for our freedom, including my father, who is a Vietnam War veteran. It hurts thinking about how I usually celebrate this day because freedom means something completely different to me this year. I realize you are dealing with so much, but please don't forget about me and the other American detainees. Please do all you can to bring us home. I voted for the first time in 2020, and I voted for you. I believe in you. I still have so much good to do with my freedom that you can help restore. I miss my wife. I miss my family. I miss my teammates. It kills me to know they are suffering so much right now. I'm grateful for whatever you can do at this moment to get me home. Last Friday, Griner made her first appearance in a Russian court. She is expected to return to court this Thursday. Today, her wife, Shilique Griner, appeared on CBS this morning. She says they still have not heard from the president.
How often do you get to talk to her or communicate with her? Because I know you haven't physically talked to her, right?
Correct. I have not physically talked to her. I had the chance about 4.5 months in. We finally got a phone call approved, and unfortunately, our government, made a mistake in not answering her phone calls, and so I haven't been able to talk to her yet. And the letters, I mean, they may be consistent as in I'll hear something, every week. And, sometimes I may not. I think at one point it was a whole month before I received one letter from her. Yeah. And when I did get them, they were backdated.
Yeah, it's very difficult to hear this conversation. Has there been a change in strategy on how you all are pushing the government for her release? Are there calculations that you make yourself about what to say and how to say? What is that? What is your thinking?
So that's a good question. So everything about this is a calculation for me because I have to walk the fine line of, harm versus help when it comes to my wife right now. So as much as I want to, advocate for her and push for, our government to do everything, I also have to take into account that she's in a position where she could be harmed also. By any and everything I do. And so it's a thin line to walk. And initially, I was told, we're going to try and reserve, we're going to try and handle this behind scenes and, let's not raise her value and, stay quiet. And, I did that. And respectfully, we're over 140 days at this point. That does not work. And so I will not be quiet anymore. I will find that balance of, harm versus help in pushing our government to do everything that's possible because being quiet, they are not moving. They are not doing anything. And so my wife is struggling and we have to help her.
Shilique, a lot of us feel the same way that you do. We all want her home sooner rather than later. Before you go, have you heard from the White House since the letter was delivered to President Biden? In her letter, she says the first time she voted was in 2020, and that vote was for President Biden. Have you heard from him?
I still have not heard from him, and honestly, it's very disheartening.
All right, Shilique Griner, thank you so much for your time. We, of course, will stay on this story and would certainly like to talk to you and Brittney together. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
At today's White House press briefing, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre acknowledged President Biden received Griner's letter.
Final question. Can you talk about the status of the letter that Brittney Griner sent to the president? Has he been briefed on it? Has he even read it? Griner's wife was on television this morning. She really wants to hear from the president. Will he reach out to her in any fashion?
So I can say that the president did read the letter. I was there when he read the letter. This is something, Brittney Griner being held in Moscow We believe the Federation is she's being wrongfully detained in Moscow at this time. This is an issue that is a priority for this president. As you have heard us say before, he believes that any U.S. national that is held abroad or detained or held hostage abroad, we need to bring back safely, and we are going to use every tool that we possibly can to make that happen. Again, this is a priority for the president. I do want to share that on Saturday, Mrs. Griner spoke with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. That is their second call in the past about 10 days that they have spoken. Secretary Blinken also spoke with Mrs. Griner as well recently. I don't have anything else to read out as far as a potential call or meeting with her family, but clearly we believe she is wrongfully detained. We believe she needs to come home. She should be home, as well as Paul Whelan as well, who's being held, and any other U.S. nationals who is being wrongfully detained abroad.
Okay. Hi, Corinne. Just to follow up on that, Griner's coach said if this was LeBron, she would be home, right? It's a statement about the value of women. It's a statement about a black person, a statement about the value of a gay person. All of those things we know is true. Do you see this as a double standard?
This is a president who has put all of the things that you just laid out, the LGBTQ community, women, people of color. He has fought for those communities throughout his career, and you have seen that in policies that he has put forward. Again, this is a priority for this president. He's doing everything that he can. The White House is closely coordinating as well with the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs, who has met with Brittney's family, her teammates, and her support network. So we are going to continue to have those conversations, and we're going to make sure that she and others get home safely.
And just to follow up, since this is a priority for the president, I mean, she's been detained for months now. Her wife told CBS this morning that she still has not heard from Biden, and honestly, it's very disheartening. I know it's a priority, but why has it taken this long, and why has it taken a letter from Griner in jail to reach the president to make this a priority?
Look, this has been on top of mind of the president. Like, I was there when he read the letter, and he takes this to heart. He takes this job very seriously, especially when it comes to bringing home U.S. nationals who are wrongfully detained. And you saw the work that his administration did to bring home Trevor Reed. That is the same work, the same focus that we did and put behind bringing Trevor Reed home. We're going to do the same with Brittney Griner and others. So again, this is a priority. We are going to make this happen. We have been in constant communications. Secretary Blinken, the special envoy, as I just listed out, and also Jake Sullivan, our national security advisor. We're going to continue to have those conversations, and we're going to continue to make sure we use everything at our disposal to bring her home, and also Paul Whelan and all the others U.S. nationals that are abroad.
So that was really illuminating in terms of both the interview from Mrs. Griner, Shilique Griner, and Karine Jean-Pierre. Therese, I'm going to start with you. This is a very delicate situation. Even Shilique mentioned she has to walk this tightrope of harm versus help. And I worry that this may be one of those situations where typically there's political posturing that you can do to appear that you're engaged on the situation. That's kind of off the table here because of Russia's war with Ukraine and the role that the United States is playing there. And obviously Brittney Griner being essentially a political prisoner from Putin. What is your take on the White House's response? And, you know, do you think enough is being done?
Yeah, I know we're looking, all of us, me as well as looking for an immediate response from the White House. But there are a lot of factors. You know, the United States has engaged with an alliance with Ukraine. And, you know, unfortunately, Brittney is caught up in this weird game of chess. And it's unfortunate because in the past we have saw presidents, you know, do the exchange. You know, it was a bit swift especially when it came to journalists. I don't want to get into, because Brittney's African American, she's a woman, she's an athlete. Like, I don't want to get into those criteria, but I want to get into what the response is from the White House, and are they doing enough? And I think to even answer that question, there is just a whole bunch of factors that are currently happening in the country that Putin is absolutely going to use to his disposal to get what he wants done. I think Russia has already proven that they are willing to, hold Brittney captive more than 138 days. I think this is fine time that the family has gone on this media tour to really say, we've waited, more than 60 days. What are we going to do? And I just think it should have came a little bit sooner, but nonetheless, this is where we are. So, I mean, I'm not sure we can let Brittney out tomorrow. That would be great. But again, when we are engaged, in the counter war with Russia, this is where we are.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, when you hear the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, when you hear the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, these are not peons. These are cabinet officials. These are high-ranking officials, as well as there's an interagency response. So it doesn't seem like this is a small deal to the administration. And one other point I do want to point out, because I hear this often, that Trump would have had her out. Well, we've seen two people who were wrongfully detained during the Trump administration who've actually been released through negotiations under the Biden-Harris administration. So I just want to clear that up, because I think a lot of people have this notion that Trump was so tough and he would have done whatever, and he did not successfully get any wrongful detainees out of Russia during his time, because he was Putin's lapdog. But with that being said, it's 100% justified for Sherelle and the Griner family and friends to do everything they can to put as much pressure upon the administration to not let up, and to constantly engage with them and communicate with them and assure them that they're doing everything they can to bring Brittney home. Mustafa, I want to go to you, because you've actually worked in an administration. So I just want to get your sense of, your read on what kinds of things the administration is kind of hamstrung on, and what do you think they're doing well in this situation, if anything?
Well, as was stated, being in the middle of a war makes it really tough. But with that being said, it's not the first time that whether our country or countries that we are allied with have been in wars, and we have still been able to make sure that those international negotiations, the things that happen behind closed doors, those conversations between ambassadors and others, continue to move forward. A basic is the president actually having a conversation with the Griner family. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's basics. That's 101 stuff. Maybe there's a reason that didn't happen earlier. I've seen other conversations with other families with a lot more immediacy than in this situation. Folks understand you're going to, if you say you're going to do the best you can, then people are going to take you at your word, and they're going to give you the space to be able to do that. But if you don't, then you create these gray areas that make folks really nervous, because they're already dealing with a situation that is unfamiliar to them. Yeah. So do everything you can in your power to help the family to know, one, that you're committed, two, that you're connected, and three, that you'll use all the resources that the United States has to be able to make sure this situation is rectified and she's brought back home safely. Mm-hmm. Again, those are the 1, 2, 3s. And when you don't do that, you create these gaps that are unnecessary. The other thing is, there are some talented people who are part of the negotiations right now. But, I'm a student of history. I know many of other people are. We remember when Jesse Jackson was actually able to go in and get hostages freed. So maybe we need some folks who have those types of skills to also be a part of the negotiations if they are not. And again, I want to give grace and space, because there are so many things that happen that we're not privy to in these types of situations. But, we can bring her home. I sure hope and I pray that she makes it back home very, very soon.
Yeah. To your point, Bill Richardson actually has been retained by the Griner family to help with the negotiations, and he successfully got the return of Otto, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Rombier, and other hostages, whether that's from North Korea and other hostile nations. And so with him on the case, I mean, that's a pretty effective hostage negotiator, as well as, you know, the folks in the administration that are working it. But to another point about Biden meeting with the family, it's interesting because in a recent release, person who's released, I believe it was Paul Roland, his family protested outside of the White House. And that afternoon, Biden granted an audience with them. So pressure works to get this FaceTime. You know, at some point, perhaps the administration will make the calculation that, you know, not elevating Griner's importance in the eyes of Putin is not as big of a priority than it is to assure the Griner family that they're really working on it. So, I mean, it's a tough call to make, but, you know, when a family is hurting and they're concerned and they're asking for it, I'm more along the lines of saying, you know, you got to take that risk, at least do it privately, you know, even if you say, look, this is off the record, nobody can know about this, at least she doesn't have to go out and plead publicly for a meeting. Demario, I do want to go to you about on the topic of the fact that she is a black woman. Now, we've seen white men detained wrongfully in Russia as well. So we know that Putin is an opportunist when it comes to Americans in general. But to the point that's been made by many people over the months, if this were something like LeBron James or anybody else, the entire country and actually the world would be galvanizing around getting her home, the same way we saw people galvanize around the world when the UCLA basketball players were detained in China, and they had actually, you know, kind of wreck some shit up. So, you know, I think that I'm not convinced that this is an issue in terms of the administration's response and their priority level. In responding to this, I take Karine Jean-Pierre at her word, especially when I hear Jake Sullivan and Blinken and others are involved. But I think as a society, it's a little bit too kind of shoulder shrugging going on. And I've even seen some people like, well, she knew that she was breaking the law. She knew she shouldn't have been doing that, and really excusing it, even though if she weren't wrongfully detained, if she were treated like anybody else, she would have gotten a ticket. I want people to understand that. But the amount of hash oil she was found with, it would have been a ticket. It would have been a fine, and she would have not been facing jail time under any other circumstances. So the blame game on that needs to stop. That's just flat out not true. But Demario, what is your reaction to just what we all could be doing to help putting pressure on not just Biden, but Putin, for him to understand that this, you know, reflects poorly on him as well?
There's a lot to unpack there. I would say first, though, your first question about if this was LeBron, there would be no way in hell that Biden would not have been on the phone with LeBron's wife. I just want to elevate what Mustafa said. It's like he took my notes. He took my Jesse Jackson and my notes about the call. And I think this is really something that Democrats do all the time, and it just drives people crazy. They say, we're going to do all I can to help, and then you don't do all you can. And like Mustafa said, one-on-one, make the phone call to the family. Take 5 minutes to say, I understand what's going on. I get it. We're trying as hard as I can. I got my best men and women on the job. That would mean the world. And if this was LeBron, you best believe President Biden would have been on the phone with LeBron's family immediately. I believe that because Brittney is an African-American female WNBA basketball player, it's not the same elevation as far as the administration or with the country. As far as Bill Richardson, I was going to say the same thing. I think Bill Richardson has a track record also, but I think Jesse Jackson has a track record, and I think that would bring a lot of solace and comfort to the family. To your third point, as far as, you know, what can we do? I don't believe anything an American citizen can do to impact a foreign country that's at war with the United States of America. I think the focus should be on our own administration to be doing everything possible, not only to get Brittney back, but to bring comfort to the family. I think those things are just as important. And we're all praying for her return, safe return. The picture we saw her going to court with her eyes bucked, it really hurt me to see that, to see the fear in her face. So, we're just hoping she gets home safely, but more important, or just as importantly, we hope that the family knows that we care about her, but this country should be behind her at 100%.
I agree, Demario. That's the least we can do, is stand in solidarity with Brittney and her family.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Love our new Alexa.
It's a Buick.
Yeah, Alexa.
Buick.
Alexa.
It's a Buick.
It's an Alexa. It's a Buick. It's an Alexa. Coach, that's a Buick. That's an Alexa.
The Buick Enclave with available Alexa built in.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?